Hello, my friends. It is Laura Ward here to offer you a little, very small, mini micro movement session with the idea of inviting more fluidity into your system and freeing up some of the holding patterns that may be holding you back or containing you or keeping you sort of rigid in your personality or your ego or your whoever you are-ness. So the offering with this micro movement is to find fluid ways of moving or imagining that the fluid in your body is informing your movement. So I've been a dancer my whole life. It's very easy for me to move, to just turn into movement. But I want to offer this for people who aren't accustomed to feeling in movement or having their senses so completely wrapped around and within movement. So the things that we can do are shift sort of from side to side. This shifting from side to side could have a little spiraling with it. We can shift forward and backwards. This is from like a seated position, just to give us some vocabulary. There can be diagonals from one quadrant to another that ripple through. There can be full-on spiraling, and there can be any kind of combination of up-downness, side-sideness, forward-backness with any kind of ripples and whirlpools and eddies happening within that. So when you tune into the sensation in your body, in a way you want to think of following what feels good, what's interesting. So for me right now, one of my motivations is I have this tightness in the left side of my it's in my quadratus lumborum, it's deep inside, maybe my rector spinae a little bit. And if I start to mobilize my belly, my guts, it's like I'm internally massaging out from the inside to the outside that tightness, that system that's come into sort of a rigid way of being. So what I find for me, this type of fluid movement can really help work through pain that I have in my body and heal things much faster. It also allows me to come into myself, into presence with myself, into presence with sensation that is very non-storied. There's not a lot of narrative to it. It's just feeling into body, feeling into sensation, and bringing my awareness online with movement so that the movement is hydrating my inner body. So there's all these different sort of levels of this. There's a sort of physiological level of it, but then there's also the sort of spirit, mental, body-mind level where it's all sort of interconnected. So a big part of it is to tune into the spaciousness within and maybe even around me, and bring my sensation, my awareness online with that type of movement. There's so much that could be said about this. So on any different day, it's going to be a slightly different version of what I'm doing, what I'm feeling, what's going on. And that brings me to this idea of layering, which I really learned about through Continuum, but it's about how we learn. And the sense of layering in this type of micro movement is, if I came back and did this exact same thing or listened to myself talk this through, what I'm going to be feeling in my body will be different every single time. So part of this is when we're working with this fluidity, the water's never going to pattern in exactly the same way as it has in the past. Also, we want to be turning towards what's new and novel. So instead of like, okay, I'm doing this thing that I know, I'm doing this exercise, it goes like this, my body knows it, and then I don't need to stay tuned in, I can just check out, I'm just doing my thing. But in this version, I'm tuning into what is new, what is different, what's arising. So it's not a rigid pattern form that I can check out on. It's almost like the vacuum of awareness just sucks me right into what's happening. What does it feel like? So if I describe what I'm feeling, what the sensation of, I can describe it from sort of a body part level, like my pelvis is kind of moving and rolling around, and that's shifting movement up through the central channel of my body. I can feel it in my shoulders, I can feel it in my neck, my jaw, maybe into my face. For me, my hands and my arms are often, they are interested in being involved in this. So some kind of movement where I'm freeing up the pattern of being human and doing my human things, and coming into this more octopus-like free-form animal body that is responding to sensation in the immediate moment of what's going on, what's interesting, what's delicious. So with that, I am going to add some music. This is Jeff Gersh, Ambient Fields, big favorite of mine. And I want to invite you to move with me. You could do this laying down. You could do it on a bed. You can do it in a chair. You can do it with green eggs and ham. You can do it any way you want, Sam I Am. Using sort of this idea of, I think that what I think of with micro movement is that it's maybe starting very small with this awareness, but then rippling out. It may become very big. It may ripple and wave into more expansive movement. And I think the micro part is just about allowing our awareness to come into maybe one place that then expands out. So it may be sort of a direct focus or a direct awareness that then ripples out into a very spacious awareness that's taking in much more than a single pinpointed focus. In Laban, we'd call it indirect space. We're still attending to it, but it's multi-focal, multi-aware. Think of like the full starry sky and imagining that that's what's happening in your body. Yeah, imagery can be helpful. And if any of it doesn't work, don't use that idea. Go with something different. Finding and awakening this awareness inside the body, this moving awareness, this liquid, fluid aliveness. And we want to think of not like, I'm engaging my muscles to do this thing. We want to think of, I'm letting all of my systems come together in this dance of sort of life, of energy, of Shakti or life force energy. It sounds kind of hoo-ha. So feel into your own system. It doesn't need to be something that is outside of yourself, coming from someone else. This is to build that awareness, build the relationship of sensation, desire to move, movement, and sort of a rippling flow that's alive and awake, where it's beyond the way that we think about movement as humans, or have thought historically about exercise. You know, these forms of movement that are done for reasons. I want to strengthen this. But this is really, the exercise is in building awareness, in deepening the sensory loops of sensation, spaciousness, freedom in your form. So your form has capacity to move. So when I'm in these kind of movement flows, I can have my arms going for a very long time and they never become tired because I'm just listening to the movement. It's not like I'm doing a thing. It's more like I'm allowing a thing. I'm listening to a thing. I'm inviting this inquiry, this exploration. And as I invite the exploration, it may get bigger, it may get smaller. Like micro movement could be so small that there's really no really obvious outer signal that you're doing it. You can just stay within yourself. And now mine's big enough that you can see it. And part of the reason is because A, that feels good to me, but the other part is that so that you can have some idea of what's possible. Things don't exist sort of until we can see them or we've heard about them or they come alive for us some way. allowing yourself to just feel into what's interesting, what's arising, what's delicious. So I said I have this injury that I'm kind of playing with. So I don't just sit there and keep going into the sensation of, oh, I'm trying to fix this thing. Instead, I just know it's there. I have this aliveness. And then I think, what might feel good? And I try to keep pinging into what's delicious within my movement, what's pleasurable, without trying to fix it, but more like just trying to, it's weird. Because there is like, I know that if I do this movement, it'll fix it, but it's not the thing behind it. It's not the primary mover. It's just one piece of information in the whole system. And the whole system always knows everything within itself about what's going on. So it's another way of looking or feeling into that. Inviting deliciousness should feel good. Be playful, pleasurable, curiouser and curiouser. I'm going to take it down to the floor just to give you another viewpoint. Yeah, I was sitting on a block before. So down here, now I've given a totally different relationship to gravity. So my body, my octopus body has different information coming in because I'm on the ground. And it also feels really good to roll across my back. So rolling across my back is just massaging that out. So I want to balance this out between like, oh, delicious novel movement, and also what feels good, what feels interesting, what's possible down here. Like the idea isn't to move so much that you then hurt yourself. It's to stay within very gentle flows of movement that are nourishing. Like it's nourishing. For me, it's like soul nourishing. It's delicious to my being to be in this space. It's delightful. And as I do this, I come back to myself. It's like I'm calling in all the selves of me and bringing it back to myself. It's not going out somewhere. It's coming into myself. Again, I can play with the sort of up-downness of my movement from my head to my feet, the side-sideness of my movement, the forward-backness of my movement, and then break those patterns into like these fractals of possibility. And sometimes my awareness will really be in one place, but more and more my awareness is in all places in myself. Like there's an aliveness of all of it. And it can shift from one area to a completely different area. And if I think I know what's going to happen, I need to let go of that, because often things are going to go somewhere else. So this again comes back to the layering, like letting yourself layer in the information and never expect it to be the same. It's always a new experience. It's the Heraclitus. You've stepped into this river today, and tomorrow you will be different and the river will be different. So you can't step in the same river twice, because you are not the same and neither is the river. So using that water principle within yourself, but you can build the awareness and the sort of capacity to dive in, the capacity to dive into your sensation, and then swim around in there, play in there, delight in it. Yeah, sort of allowing yourself to clear out the sludge of lifetimes of sitting still. Free up the sludgy stillness, the sticky stuckness. Let it wake up into movement. Even those of us who move a lot are still a lot as well. So. And I don't know, most people I know went to school and sat still in school, sat still at work, and that was being a good human. Like, that is so anathema to what my idea of life is. Yeah. You can also get on your stomach. All fours is great. There's something about the stomach, finding fluidity on your belly. I don't know, there's something really coming home about it. It might not be comfortable for very long. It's really nice if you have one of those big yoga bolsters, or even a physio ball, which I have over there, but I want to show this with no things, no extra props. And I've said this before, but try not to go into some kind of like yoga patterning or some kind of pattern that you already know. Shift it up, change it around. Stay in open learning space as opposed to rote repetition space. It doesn't have to look like this. You could be very still for most of this. And often, like, if this is completely new for people, there are many people that they lay there for forever, for years, trying to find the impulse to move. So give yourself permission to take forever. Take as long as it takes until the impulses start to come, and still the impulses start to free up. Think of it like the bubbles in champagne. Suddenly they get set free, like they're under some kind of surface, and then the impulses bubble up. Yeah, so get your champagne bubble body on. They're such a great image, the champagne bubbles. So much more exciting than seltzer. It's an adventure. It's an exploration and an adventure, or it can be. Taking it back to smaller movement, ripples and waves. You can let things stick out. Giving your body and your cells like permission to exist, to stick out, to take up space. And maybe some gratitude to having this earthy body, to being born here on this planet. This earthy body of water, alive with breath and life and the fire of your spirit, alive with the warmth of being human, the warmth of being a living animal. So just, I don't know, giving yourself a moment of gratitude and appreciation for whatever it is, just the big thank you for having a body here now. Being born. What a miracle is that? What is the likelihood? Well, it's happened. Here we are. Yeah, clearing up some of the detritus, the bits and pieces, the murky and mucky stuff. Just letting the earth take it and compost it, giving in some of that holding patterns, whatever stuff is stuck in you. Allow it, just offer it down into the earth, offer it into the ground. I was listening to this podcast. It was Tammy Simon from Sounds True talking to Adrienne Marie Brown. And Adrienne Marie Brown was talking about offering the things that she couldn't hold or deal with herself, lighting a candle for them and offering them into the fire. Let the fire take care of that stuff. We don't need to take care of everything. And the more that we can come into presence with ourselves and be okay with being human in our animal bodies, being humans in our animal bodies. What a funny thing. But the more that we can come into a fluid harmony within ourselves, the less we need to aim our arrows outward or inward. We can be like, oh, okay, that's what's happening. We don't need to attack ourselves. We don't need to attack or point the finger at other people. We can be in our living process, our body-mind process. So with those great deep thoughts, I'm going to close it out for you. If you have made it all the way through for 21 minutes and 40 seconds, bravo. Please like and subscribe because, yes, that's why, because YouTube. Goodbye TV land. I hope to see you again soon.